This is a wind chime that I previously made just to give you an outline of what the whole business involves. I divide it into 4 fragments. You've got the frame where everything is suspended, you've got the clapper, you've got the chimes, and you've got the wind catcher. So the theory is that the wind catcher catches the wind, sets the clapper off, which hits the chimes, and you get this nice sound. For my chimes, I'm going to be using what's left of an overbed table, which I bought for a rather sick relative of mine, who told me where to stick it, so it's now available for other uses. So the thing about this is it's black, it's got a hole in it, which means that I can automatically thread something to suspend it by, and this is really the point that I want to make. I got 2 hanging here. One is suspended by thread and the other is suspended by chain, and the difference in sound, that is your thread and it's still ringing. That's your chain and it's dead. So the actual contact of chain metal against the metal is deadening the sound. So I want to make my wind chimes on a sort of heavy metal theme of black and silver, blue oyster cult, and if I'm going to use chains, I've got to find a way to suspend it with chains, but without the chains being in contact with the metal otherwise, as opposed to, oops, pretty good. The first thing we've got to do is to cut our chimes. For that you're going to need one of these, which is a pipe cutter. It only cost, I think it was $7.99 or something like that, and it's really quite easy to use, a bit laborious particularly with big pipes like this, but once you get the hang of it, it's easy enough. The length of the pipes, and I just cut them fairly randomly. I mean, there are websites that go into the harmonics and the mathematics of how short, how long your various pipes should be. I've just taken the original length, made one short and fitted the other in between so that they're sort of visually symmetrical, and we'll see any minute now how audio symmetrical they are. So there we go. This one's a bit out of tune, I think. Or maybe that one is. They're all out of tune, but who cares? So now, as I explained earlier, I don't want to be using chains going through these pipes here. So I'm using quite a stout bit of nylon material and a couple of curtain rings. That's the chimes nearly done, but not forgetting the theme of heavy metal, black and silver, I'm going to have some sub chimes. These silver chains, which don't have much of a load bearing capacity, but all I've done is put some beads, sparklies. I've tied them with that invisible nylon which you can't see, and these are going to be suspended alongside the black pipes. Now we're going to have a look at the frame, the bit that's going to, everything is going to be suspended from, and for that I have got this, which I'm not quite sure where it came from originally. I think it's part of a table lamp. It's very, very handy because it's got numerous holes all over it through which I can thread the chains and the key rings which are going to be forming the support. If I turn it over, I have another system of chains and rings that were going to support the clapper and the wind catcher. We have here a skull. This is the skull of a herring gull. During my days as a veterinary surgeon, I used to do a lot of rehabilitation work with wild animals and birds particularly. Not all of them could be saved. It's a beautiful structure. With heavy metal, you've got to have a skull. Right, maybe a few words about these materials that I've been using. The silver chain is jewellery quality and not designed to bear much weight at all. A pair of simple little cutters. I mean, you can really just nip through that in no time. The other stuff, the stainless steel chain, this is 1.2mm thick links about 10mm apart in length, I mean. And that's designed to take 10kg weight load. That's this stuff. That is very difficult to cut. You need a pair of pliers carefully placed at the right point to nip through that. Nylon, very high breaking strain that. I can't do it. The only disadvantage of this is it's gold and I want silver. I have in fact ordered some silver to keep up with the theme. Okay, so this is the initial assemblage. I've had to make an adjustment here. Any form of metal in suspending it dulls the sound, so I'm going to use the nylon that we've got here. Obviously I'll hide the knots. Listen to this. These sounds resonate, don't they? They're just still going. This is exactly what I wanted. What? It's so resonant. Yeah. Pretty pleased with that. So now we're going to get on with the old clapper. But before that, I want to put on these chimelets. These are silver threads, very lightweight, with a little reflecting sphere at the bottom. They don't actually touch the tube, so I'm not getting interference with the sound. But they produce a nice additional one. I'm going to put those around each of Chimes. I have a split thumb right over that sensitive spot, and it makes manipulating these bits of metal a bit uncomfortable. There we go. There's a nice sort of additional little chime going on there, which is very pleasing. This is the clapper. What I've done is used the excess tubing that was left over from the chimes, simply because the space between the chimes is quite narrow, so it's important your clapper has sufficient room to move, but doesn't actually rest against the chimes. You'll see this more when it's assembled. The problem with using a tube like that is when you hold it up vertically, it's likely to go on the wonk, hang at a tilt, because this is not going to be central. However, to overcome that, what I've done is I've put two key rings which will hang at 90 degrees to each other, so effectively, I hope, centralizing the dangle, which it doesn't. So we'll have to think of a way around that. I got this little gizmo in the middle, which is designed to make sure that the chain actually rises up through the centre of the tube rather than it going wonky to one side. I'll see if I can show you what I mean. There you go, that hangs plumb. And finally, the wind catcher. What you need with a wind catcher, I think, is something two-dimensional, something fairly light. I mean, the idea is it's going to respond to any wind movement and then transfer the movement up to the clapper, which will in turn ring the bells. Now, in this case, I made this out of the plastic top of a biscuit tin. Cut out the image, which I do confess I hijacked off the internet. I cut it out using a jigsaw blade and then enamelled it with spray black paint. I also applied some glue and sprinkled it with some aquarium sand to give it a less glossy appearance, and then acquired these, what are they called? Asteron flatback pearls and rhinestones, which I think I probably overdid a little bit, but I'm not going to undo it now. These are said Asteron flatback pearls and rhinestones, which you can have a wonderful time with. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I'm very pleased.